Hey there, let me take a quick second to introduce to you one of the businesses that makes this show possible by continuing to support us. Uh, this particular business is called Podium, and I personally use it. As you know, with sponsors on this podcast, we don't allow sponsors that I don't use. I just have to use them and trust them before we go down that rabbit hole of recommending it to you. But with that being said, I use Podium personally. I have a lot of friends who use Podium. Whenever I told friends of mine who are business owners in the HVAC industry in particular that I don't use Podium, they were like, you're a fool for not using Podium. A little bit about Podium: they've worked with over 55,000 local businesses. They do range from tire shops to jewelry stores, medical practices. Every Podium customer has one thing in common: they are problem solvers. They solve problems. These new challenges that we're facing are no exception. They've used Podium's suite of messaging tools to continue to deliver everything that they've done in the past with great service. They've stayed in touch through text, connected remotely with websites through text, collected contactless payments through text, and even started video chats through text. They've done all of this with the messaging tools, the tools that just work. They work really great 6 feet away. They also work really great 60 miles away. They've maintained a personal touch even when we can't be in person. See for yourself how 50,000 businesses have been able to adapt with using Podium. Go to podium.com/starter to get started for free. That's podium.com/starter. I use it and it's unbelievable. I will tell you that in the biggest pain point that I had in the past was getting messages from my Facebook business page and getting alerted properly when a message would come through. I want to interact with our clients, but I didn't have a proper way of having that communication. Well, now I have that. I have all of my chat goes to one app, and I'm notified instantly, which is amazing. And if I don't reply within 5 minutes, I get an email, which is awesome too. It's amazing because I've had conversations on Facebook through the Podium app, and those conversations come straight to my phone. I'm instantly notified, and it's Facebook through our Service Titan. So Service Titan, even after hours, we're getting notified, and it is amazing. And we're sending out alerts as soon as the service expert heads places. We can send videos. It's legit a game changer. And that doesn't even mention the fact that it sends out reviews and collects reviews for us on Facebook and Google. And you can do anything else. You can do anywhere else that you have something, you can collect reviews for that place also. So that being said, long-winded, but I believe in it. That's why it's on the podcast, and I think you should check it out. That's podium.com/starter to get started for free. Back to your show. Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You are listening to or possibly watching Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about cash flow, and I'm super honored and thankful to have Judy Defeo on the show today. And it's, as a business owner, it's very obviously, well, I preface business owner, but realistically, every one of us, it's uncertain times right now, so we don't really know what to do. But as far as cash flow goes, like I've always kind of known what the ebbs and flows of the business, and I knew exactly what I should be doing and preparing and whatnot. But now it's just we've kind of thrown in an uncertainty level in there, and so not knowing exactly what to do with cash flow. And then you have some businesses that are getting cash thrown at them, and you don't know what to do. Are you spending it properly? Are you blowing that cash? And then others, you're already tight with cash, so you don't know what to do, prepared for the future. So I'm excited to talk to Judy today and learn more about her and her business, and share with you, the listeners or the watchers, a little bit about cash flow and doing it the right way, and what you should and shouldn't do whenever it comes to cash flow. But with that being said, Welcome to the show, Judy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tersh.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You have
Sure.
an extremely impressive resume. So tell us a little bit about you.
So we've been in business 15 years. Love, love working with small businesses. I will say that 15 years ago, when I started my business, I didn't really understand what small business was because I worked for many years in the corporate world. And so I thought a small business owner was, the retail shop or the electrician or the plumber. I didn't really understand how many businesses there were. And I didn't understand the struggles that they went through. And I, was still very much in that corporate mind. So it took me a couple of years to really get it and understand it's very different than corporate, and they have different concerns and different issues on a daily basis. And so we get right into the weeds
Mhm.
with them, doing their bookkeeping, doing their accounting. And, we've recently added on what we'll call a virtual CFO. And I know that's a big buzzword now. And we've been doing that informally for a number of years. We've just kind of formalized into different kind of packages now. But to your point about cash flow, that's one of the things that we've always worked on with our clients and trying to get them to understand it, because many times they look at their P&L, and we go over that with them monthly. So we look at their P&L and they see a net number at the bottom, and they may have a net income number of 100,000, 50,000, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
And then they say, but I don't have that money in the bank. I
Yeah.
don't understand. So we go through a lot of training with them to understand the difference between what that income statement means versus what it means cash in the bank. And it's two very different things. So we walk them through that whole process. But more importantly, over the last few months, as you said, people are getting money. People got, many people got a PPP loan. They got the EIDL loan.
Mhm.
And some people really, really needed it, and others did not.
Mhm.
You know, they took it because it was available,
Yeah.
and they took it because there's so much uncertainty. So they may not have needed it 3 months ago, but maybe they need it next month, or maybe they need it now. So
Yeah.
they took advantage of that. But how do we keep track on spending that? What are we doing? And how are we managing our cash in and cash out? I mean, there's so much detail and so many different levels that we can look at when we talk about cash flow.
So with that being said, if you did take it and you didn't need it, what's the best thing to do with it in the meantime? I mean, obviously you
So,
spend it. Just
yeah.
yeah.
So our clients, and we helped a lot of our clients successfully get their loans.
Mhm.
And we had them all set up a separate account. So they put that money in that account. And some of our clients needed it right away.
Mhm.
They needed it to make payroll because they weren't having the revenue and they didn't lay off, or, whatever reason. So we've managed it very carefully. If they have it in the separate account, as we've asked them to, as payroll periods came around, we moved it from that account into their checking account and then paid the payroll. Some clients actually moved their payroll to be taken right out of that separate account also. Now, PPP was meant very specifically payroll, health insurance, and rent. Pretty much that's it.
Yeah.
Um, but the EIDL, that's more varied. There's a lot more expenses that you can use that for. So we're tracking all of that right within
You
QuickBooks. And
definitely didn't want to put it in your common operating expenses.
no, we want it separate because you're going to have to give an accounting of that. Now, say that, but they still are working on the PPP.
Mhm.
If you have taken 150,000 or less, there's a really good chance you won't have to send in any paperwork with
Yeah.
that, which I hope I pray and I hope, because it was a lot of work getting the loans, and it was such a distraction for us. It's not typically what we do. We're not loan officers. We don't typically do
I
loan
think it
applications.
took a
So
lot of, it made a distraction for even business owners in general. I remember like a 2-week period where like our business was still operating, but so we had like a kind of a slingshot effect where right when the COVID started, whenever everything started, the we were booming, we were
right.
growing, and then I remember like I didn't need the PPP, but I applied for the loan
Mhm.
just because I was like, if they're gonna forgive it, like
Absolutely.
I'm
And
gonna do it
that
anyway.
was our recommendation to our
And
clients. Just
exactly,
take
and
it.
so but then I remember spending about 2 weeks where that was kind of my main focus.
Hmm.
Then
Oh, yes.
about 6 weeks later, maybe 4 weeks later, we had a dip in our business, and I
Mhm.
can directly correlate, well, for those 2 weeks, I wasn't really working on my business there.
Yeah.
I was working on getting that PPP loan, and so it
It
distracted me, and then so we had to
was.
reevaluate everything and get back into the focus there.
Yeah.
And that's and thankfully ours was much less than $150,000. It was good and bad because it was a catch-22, because last year we were extremely small, and then this year we were growing. We were substantially larger at that same
Right.
period. But whenever we put our application in, it was for last year's numbers,
Yeah.
and so it was like, this is like less than a month's worth of payroll now. But and our coaches were like, track everything, track it all. And then
Yes.
so we use ADP for our payroll services
Yeah.
also. And I didn't know this, but they were tracking it also. And then
So,
after the
yeah.
fact, they came back and were like, here's a report you can run that tells you exactly how much you spent. And I was like, well, we created another checking account and did all this other stuff and have a spreadsheet and everything else. But I was thankful after the fact that they did do that, but we also did it ourselves, and now it's looking like it might get forgiven at all altogether.
Exactly. I know. So we did the same thing. And the problem that we ran into was that, as you know, the laws and the rules kept changing.
Absolutely.
So, we set up, and this was an issue with the payroll company. So while they were on top of it, they definitely were. ADP had their reports out, paychecks, Gusto, all of them. But a lot of them were wrong, because the second they put it out, they changed the law. So, you could put health in, then no, you had to take it out, and put the FICA in, no, you had to take it out. So we actually have one of our clients who applied for it himself. He calculated it wrong, and he got about $100,000 more than he should have.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? He's probably going to get the whole thing forgiven now.
Oh,
He
wow.
shouldn't have got that money.
Yeah, lucky guy.
So, good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, there were a lot of issues with the laws that kept changing. And we had created these very complex Excel spreadsheets for tracking the forgiveness of it. And, first it was 75-25, then it was 60-40. So we're making all these changes. And then I'm like, wait, just stop it. Because I'm starting to hear a little buzz that 150,000 or less may be forgiven. And many of our clients are in that number. Some of them did get more.
Hmm.
So we will still have, but it's definitely has been simplified. The
Yeah.
whole calculation for the forgiveness is a lot more simplified than it was
Yeah.
when it
And
first came out.
we had friends of ours that their businesses they were like pretty much in flow. They were growing like 10% over
Yeah,
last year or something like
yeah,
that. And so they were like, well, can I spend my money on this? And can I spend my money on that? I was like, I cannot give you any advice, because
yeah.
ours is going to be 100% for payroll
Right.
in about a month, and it's not
Yeah,
going to last much longer than that. So
yeah.
we're just going to use it for payroll, and it's going to be a little bonus. And so,
Right.
what would you say? So here's my take on it. Tell me if this is good or bad. Um, you can't use PPP for other expenses other than payroll,
Hmm.
but you can use PPP for payroll, and what you were going to use for payroll, you can use for other expenses.
You got
Okay. So that's
it.
basically, I mean, we didn't do that, but we I
Well,
take that back. We spent a
exactly.
little bit on marketing. We spent a little bit
Right.
on hiring more
Yeah.
people. So like hiring ads and that type of
Yeah.
thing. And so we spent some of that money that we would have spent on payroll on those type
Exactly.
of things.
So as long as you can show that you spent it on payroll, then yes, that leaves you extra money for other expenses. And now that they extended it out to 24 weeks, it gives you even more time to spend that money that you receive, because there were a lot of businesses who were not going to spend
Mhm.
it in 8 weeks because their staff, that they weren't working.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
You know,
And that was with us being an air conditioning company coming right into the summer. It was
you are working.
going nonstop, and so
Absolutely.
we had so much overtime whenever people when we got the check for
Yeah.
PPP, we had so much overtime coming in or
Yeah.
going out that the guys, I mean, we just blew through that money so fast.
Yeah, air conditioning is non-negotiable. If that goes out, you call right away to get that fixed.
Absolutely.
That is non-negotiable. I would sooner sit without heat than without air conditioning.
Well, here in South Georgia, it's very common for people
Yeah,
to say, "We'll just wait till spring to get our heater, air conditioner fixed.
right.
We'll just bundle up or get a space heater." And so,
Yeah.
what would you say about cash flow in general if you did get the EDIL and then
Hmm.
you don't really need it right now? So like with us, we have, it's air conditioning still
Hmm.
going. We're getting a lot of clients. We're staying busy. So we don't really need it. And also like we price our jobs properly. We're watching our numbers. We know our overhead expenses versus income versus outgoing.
Yeah.
Um, and so our numbers are good. We know we're going to make money, um, but we can't use it to venture off into another space or another territory. Um, what do we do with that money that's sitting there?
Yeah. So to your point, what you said a few moments ago, if you're spending money on other items,
Mhm.
that leaves you extra money to do something else if you wanted to venture out.
As long as we
But
track that.
well, you've got to be able to say that, let's say you got 100,000 in EIDL, you've got to be able to show that, what you have spent it on. So if you don't have, let's say in year one, because you will have to give annual reports to the SBA. So let's say in year one, you said you spent 10,000, you need to show that you actually had 10,000 in expenses, not capital expenditures, expenses. And once you're done with your PPP money, then the EIDL can be used for payroll. So there you go.
So you could
So
take and just use your EDIL for payroll for the next 10 years if that's what you
potentially, yeah,
Mm.
you know.
If it lasted out that long.
If it lasts that long, and if they don't come out with other policies, they're changing policy midstream.
Right.
So, you know, like typically you get a loan and these are your terms and they don't change.
Mhm.
They don't seem to be following those
Right.
that policy now.
But it's
So
terrifying at the same
it
time
is
because
terrifying.
one time I heard 1% and then like obviously when I think I signed for it, I think it was like 3% or 3.7.
So 1% was the PPP. If it wasn't forgiven, it would be 1%. The
Okay.
EIDL is 3.75.
Okay.
And still, very good. If it's difficult to, where you're going to get a loan for that. So if you
So you
need it,
couldn't take you could what if you have a van that's at 8%? Can you pay
you
off that
can't pay
van?
off old debt.
Okay.
You can pay the interest on it,
Okay.
but not old debt. So you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to put that whole 10,000, or pay off the remainder of that loan." You can't do that.
Good to know.
Yeah.
But you're allowed to pay. I don't know how it's specifically worded. I don't recall, but it was you're allowed to pay your monthly expenses if it's being hindered by anything with the virus or the pandemic. Uh,
Correct.
so could you pay your monthly truck payments or your notes.
I believe you can. I believe you can. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can pay the
Can't pay it off
monthly.
in a big,
No, you
big
just
bulk.
can't pay. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. It's to keep you in business the way you were prior. It's
Yeah,
not for growth.
gotcha. Totally. Totally
Yeah.
makes sense. There's obviously going to be some people out there who are eager to, okay, let's get debt free or let's consolidate all of our bills. And I guess it's the government's way of saying, we want you to spend money, but we want you to keep spending money, over a period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It was a really good bill that they came out with good intentions in that both the EIDL and the PPP and all the other things that were in the CARES Act were meant to keep people employed and keep employers in business. So it really was meant for both sides.
Hmm.
But there are, especially with the EIDL, there are some specific terms in there. And if you have a loan, an existing loan with a bank, you need to talk to that banker and make sure that there's not, any kind of conflict because there was some fine print in there
Do you recall that?
about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a chance that a certain percentage of the EDIL might get forgiven? No,
No, it's a
that's
loan.
going to be 100%
It's
loan all
100%
the
a
time.
loan.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a few clients who they initially took it and or they thought they were going to take it and then they decided not to take it. And we have actually just yesterday, um, a colleague of mine had let me know that she had taken it and she was returning it. She had returned it yesterday. Yeah.
Is there a penalty if you return
Not
it?
a penalty, but she had to pay the interest from the time she took it
Okay.
until now. It wasn't a large amount of money, but she did have to pay whatever that interest
So
accrued
what would
at.
be the benefit of, I mean, why would you do that? I mean, because it's such a low interest that you could sit on that for a minute.
She could have. She took it, thinking that uh, her clients were going under and she wasn't going to have a business, and I think
Yeah.
she just panicked.
Yeah.
So it was really she took it just as a cushion, and then I
I mean,
guess
we were all in hysteria for a while.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
obviously. And so it's like, if you'll give it to me, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus she just landed a very big client, so she's like, I don't think I need that money anymore.
Even better. Yes.
Even better. Right.
So
Right.
Ed, we're on live on Facebook, and Ed was asking that he said they did not apply for the loan. Can they apply still, or is it too late?
Um,
I
the
know the
PPP
PPP.
closed, and
Yeah.
I believe the EIDL closed as well. But they are coming out with some new. There will be some new loans available. There's also Main Street lending, which we haven't got involved in
Oh, no.
as of yet. So there are some things, and I would recommend anybody to go to their state as well, because some of the individual states have grants. We have a few clients around the country who've done that.
Oh, cool. And
Yeah.
like
They're not as much, but
small
they've
businesses.
got a few thousand in grant money from their states.
So with the Main Street loan, I know you said you haven't gotten into it very much.
Yeah.
The I have a friend of mine that's in one of our coaching groups that he loves it and he's talking a lot about it. But one of the things that he's mentioned is that he can absorb all of his other loans
Mhm.
into it. So, but it's different because it has like a 5-year balloon payment or something like that.
Yeah, there are specific terms that's why I was saying you have to talk to your banker
Yeah.
about it and make sure that there's no conflict, because there was some fine print in the final terms of the SBA, and that's why some people did not wind up taking it. I think they got nervous. And there is a personal guarantee as well, which initially there wasn't supposed to be.
And that's with
So,
the EIL. There's a person.
EIDL, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody should be returning PPP money.
Here's your free money back.
Right, exactly.
For once, we get
Exactly.
something for free. Or
Yeah, and then
relatively.
you just want to manage it well, and you don't want to be foolish. We don't know what the ramifications are going to be. We don't know how detailed they're going to look at how we're spending it. I mean, obviously they're looking to forgive 150,000 and less on the PPP. Why? Because they can't handle the influx of paperwork and checking that. It was so hard for them to just get all the loans out. It's going to be triple the difficulty trying to go through that audit on every loan app that comes back. They just don't have the capacity and the resources.
So basically what I'm hearing from you is that we don't need to go buy a new Cadillac Escalade with the money. That's probably a bad idea.
That is a really bad idea. A really bad idea.
And don't pay off old loans. So
yeah, it's just, if you just keep in mind that it's meant to keep you in business on the path that you were. It was not a loan to go grow and expand your business. It's meant to keep people in business.
So what if we were on a bad path?
It wasn't meant to take you out of that bad path. If you got into the bad path because of COVID, then it was meant to remedy that. Yeah. But if your business was sinking before COVID, that was not meant as your bailout.
Gotcha. So it's not a bailout, the government bailout for you.
It's not a government bailout for that. Now, could somehow it be maneuvered to help you? Sure. It's all in the planning. But there might be other planning things that you can do to get you out of the hole that you were sinking into.
So last question I'm going to ask you. We talked a little bit about this before we went live, and that is this past weekend they announced that they were going to do hold off on or defer employee, not employer, correct? Right. Employee.
Both.
Oh, both. So both payroll taxes are going to be deferred.
Correct.
Yes or no? And then what happens if? So I've read that Trump said if he gets reelected, he's going to push to get it completely to be dissolved, forgiven. Is this a huge, massive gamble? Like, should if we pay it all in and he does away with it, we don't get that money back.
Right.
But then if we don't pay it in and then he does away with it, then we get that.
So I like your word gamble. So when you talk about deferring employee payroll, that is a huge gamble, and that is really scary.
Yeah.
Because what if our employees, leave? Whose responsibility is it to get that money back? As an employer, we have a few clients who chose already to defer what they were able to defer based on the CARES Act, some payroll tax. But we only did that for and recommended for a few clients who I knew their business is not affected by COVID at all. They have lots of money. I'm not worried about them taking off somewhere and not being able to pay it back. They have a nice cushion. So if we can defer it, why not defer it?
Yeah.
So they can use that money elsewhere. But anybody else who, they're living, if we're managing anybody's cash very tightly, we are not deferring that payroll taxes because we're going to get in trouble later on. It has to be paid back. It's not free money. It's a deferral.
Right. So if they are deferring, though, is it your recommendation that they put that money into an account, like just a separate account, and just sit it there and hold it? Or
it depends on how much it is. I mean, the payroll tax deferral, unless you have a huge payroll, it's not a lot. So if you want to put it somewhere and earn, what are you going to earn? A percentage? Maybe 1.5 if you could find someplace. You can, you'd have to go through opening up an account. Unless you have a savings account, you could push it there. But some people are just not paying it. We just deferred it, but not for many. We only did it for a few.
The problem is that it's a small amount each week relatively, but then at the end of the year, that's going to be a massive bill.
It's going to, exactly. So it's going to be a big nut. Are the payroll companies going to be accurately recording that and tracking that? I hope so, but what if they don't? And that's wrong? who's liable? Is it going to be the payroll company? Is it going to be the employee? Is it going to be us?
Right. So,
You know.
I mean, with us paying, because we pay an additional fee to a payroll company like ADP or Paychex or
Yeah.
whatever, I feel like by me paying some of that extra fee, I pass the buck along to them.
It should
Is that
be.
true or no?
Read your fine print, though.
Of
Read your
course.
fine print. And it's still, you're the one getting the letter from the government, whether it's state or the IRS that you owe payroll taxes. It's still, getting back to distractions. That's a distraction to your day when you get a notice that you have to take care of. And it's more aggravation when you know that you had nothing to do with this, but you have to correct it. We just don't want to deal with those things. It just takes us away from what we do every day.
I feel like that's more than a day's worth of distraction. If I get that letter, I'm shot for a month. Probably.
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Every time I get something in the mail and I see it comes from the IRS, which isn't often, but every time I do, I get these knots in my stomach before I open it, because what is it going to be? And usually it's nothing. I got some weird letter the other day. But
oh yeah,
I always get nervous. What is it?
I got something a couple of weeks ago, and it was just like, we're just letting you know that the employee unemployment something or another, just a random letter that they send to every business.
Yeah.
As soon as I seen it, I was like, oh geez.
Right.
An audit of some
sort. I see the envelope, and that's what I think. Oh no, there's an audit.
The insurance audit is the worst right now, and so I couldn't imagine that audit.
Yeah, and in your industry, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome.
People reach out to learn more about you, because we didn't really talk a whole lot about all the services that you offer. Can you run through that one more time? Everything.
Sure. So we provide, we work with small businesses in a number of different industries. We provide bookkeeping, accounting, and CFO services. We talked a bit about cash flow. We do a lot of cash flow projections where we show our clients if-then scenarios. So, just as a quick example, if you have customers that pay you in 60 days, what does your cash flow look like if we could get them to pay you in 30 days, or better yet, 15 days, or on the spot? And conversely, with your vendors, if you have vendors that you just pay the bills as they come in, what does that do to your cash? And what would it mean if we can push that out a little bit and pay the vendor 15 days or 30 days? So we do different types of scenarios, which now, when everybody's watching their cash, is very, very important. We work with all cloud technology. QuickBooks Online is our hub. Yeah. We have lots of other applications we work with that integrate with QuickBooks so that our clients have a complete solution.
Cool. What's the best way for somebody to find you and reach out to you?
I would say go to my website. That's www.jaddefs.com. Okay. And there's contact information on there. We're actually in the process of redoing our website. So if you look now, it's going to look very different in a few weeks from now. So we're super excited about that.
Cool deal. Thank you again, Judy, for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too.
Okay. Bye.